Thank you for coming this afternoon, evening. We want to get this started. There are some handouts and a sign-up sheet out in the hallway. If you did not sign in, please sign in. It will just help us get a hold of you again if we have any questions or need to do any follow-up with you. And the handouts that are out there, if you didn't get your copy of those, raise your hand and someone can bring around a copy to you. Thank you. Do quick introductions here of the staff that are here helping out this afternoon. My name is Steve Godey. I am the Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities General Manager for the City of Oshkosh. Russ Van Gompel is the Director of Finance. Bob Johnson is the Water Distribution Manager. Ken Gabrielson is the Facilities Utility Manager. And Dawn Heiler in the back is the Account Clerk 2, who will be helping out with some specific bill questions. Sorry. Additionally, we do have several other city staff that'll be helping out tonight. But what we have planned is we'll have a brief presentation. We'll go over an explanation of the city utility bills, discuss water usage, review of city potential next steps. We'll take some general questions at that point in time, and then we will stop recording. At this point in time, the city is recording this. It will be potentially broadcast back onto on the city's website for people to watch that weren't able to attend. For that reason, if you do have a question, we're going to ask that you please come up to the podium to ask that, or if you have a difficulty getting to the podium, we do have a second mic that someone can bring to you so that you can speak into that so that it can be recorded so people can hear. Following the general questions, we can break into small groups. We'll have a station in back with a laptop that our staff can pull up your specific utility bill if you have a question, as well as Ken can do that up here. If you have a copy of your bill with you and you have a question, some of the other staff, myself, and others may be able to look at it and address just a question, again, if you have a printed copy with you. With that, if there's no questions to start out with, I'm going to turn this over to Ken Gabrielson, who's going to walk you through the city's utility bill.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, now first of all, the water bills are made up for four different services usually. Water, fire protection, sewer, and stormwater. As you can see up here, I think we can see it, water and sewer have fixed charges and volume charges. A fixed charge is a charge per month for the use of the meter. A volume charge is for the usage of water. So you can see right here that that's 300 cubic feet for water. You're charged the same number of units for sewer, assuming the water that comes into your house is the same water that comes out of your house. Fire protection is maintaining the hydrants throughout the city. That is that charge. And stormwater is the runoff charge that we apply to your bill. Now, the fixed charges apply to the size of your meter. The larger your meter, the more the charges. Most of you would be residential meters, which would be either 3/4 or 5/8. That's the same rate. Now this is the water bill that you've been receiving for the last few months. We've added a few new features just to assist you in the past, it was very hard to calculate your water bill. When you get it, it was like, I have no idea how this came about. So we wanted to be as transparent as possible and show everybody how it's calculated. So here, like I said before, we have fixed charges, we have the volume charge, we have the number of 100 cubic feet you're charged, and also we have the full meter reading on here. Before we used to do a truncated meter read. Now it's the full meter read. So for the one you look at, when you look at your meter and you see a number on there, that should be fairly close to it, depending if on the day we read and the day you're looking at it. So that is one of the things that we wanted to be very as transparent as possible with the water bill. We also added on here a graph. Now, the graph isn't going to be overly useful until we get well into using this bill, because if you notice, the lines that are way out here are when you were billed quarterly yet. This is when you were billed monthly. So until we start getting down farther where you have 9 months or 12 months of monthly charges, then the chart you'll be able to see how much water you're using there. Now this is the rate sheet. It's on the back of all of your bills, and we're hoping you'll be able to match this with the numbers on the front of the bill. Now, yep.
They also have a handout of the
Yep.
charges as well.
I think most of you I think have grabbed one. This is, like I had said before, this is the water rates, depending on the size of your meter. Now, most of you are right here, 3/4 or 5/8 and 3/4. That's for most of you. So you'll see your fixed charge is $8.60. Public fire is also depends on the size of your meter. So most of yours would be $3.38 for the fixed charge for fire protection. This is the volume charge. So we're looking at the last bill I showed, we had 300 cubic feet. So right here, you would see that, and this is listed as cubic feet. So when you're looking at 100 cubic feet, it would be 10 right here. So the first 100 cubic feet, we're going to charge you at $5.12, and it goes down from there. Most residents are in the top 1 or 2, so you're going to be charged $5.12 for the first 100 cubic feet, and $5.90 for the rest.
$4.90.
$4.90, I'm sorry. Okay, for the sewer, the same thing. Meter size depends, this is the fixed portion. Most of you is 5/8 and 3/4, so your sewer fixed charge is, for most of you, is going to be $9.66 a month. Now, the volume portion for sewer is all the same. There's not a graduated scale like this. So the sewer charge will be all $5.22 per 100 cubic feet. So if you look right here, those charges, these are the fixed charges I talked about. The volume charge is going to be 3 times the fixed portion. So the water would be in this area, sewer would be here. Stormwater is a charge per ERU, which is equivalent runoff unit. So most of you would be in the 0.67 ERUs, the 1 or 1.33, depending on the size of your lot. Average is 1 in the city.
In that area, the ERU is based on the impervious area on your lot. It's not solely the size of your lot, but it's how much rooftop, concrete, asphalt, other things that don't let water soak into the ground. So the more of that you have, the higher you will be on the scale. So if you have a vacant lot with absolutely no impervious surface on it, you won't have the ERU factor on there because you're at a 0. Can it wait till the end? Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I hear a lot of people, they're comparing their bills to last year. It's very hard to compare the dollar amount of a bill because we've had 3 rate increases since last year. The better comparison is usage. Look at that. Now, you're going to have to, last year you're billing quarterly, and now you're billing monthly. So you're going to have to add the 3 together and take a look at it. But that's a better comparison. And I know a lot of people think it's going down a little bit or up a little bit. And if you have some questions on it, stay afterwards, please, and we'll look up your bills and we will see how it looks. Okay? But there has been no rate increases because of going to monthly. We had a stormwater increase on April 1st. And that was just a normal stormwater increase. So there was no increases at all for going to monthly. Then another question is, people want to know why we switched to monthly. We did have many, many requests over the last few years. Bills are getting too high, and they were having a hard time paying those. Also, Many municipalities around the area are also going to monthly. And before we got this new billing software, we did not have the capability of billing monthly. So we just went live in April for a new billing software. So we are able to bill monthly now. One of the benefits of that is we read your meter every month now. We used to read it once every 3 months. So if we'd read it and we'd see, oh, you have a real high usage, then we'd send a letter out to you saying, you have a high usage, you might want to contact us and let us know what the reason is. Monthly now, we're going to catch leaks a lot faster. So that's a plus. And there has not been any changes in the meter reading software. So the software that we use to bring the reads in from all of our meters throughout the city has not changed at all. Only the billing software does. So when we bring in reads in, that's exactly what we've been doing for the same process for many years. So that has not changed at all. Another plus to going monthly in this new system is we did, like I had said before, we placed more information on the bill. We put the full meter reads in because people had a hard time looking at their meter read and looking at the meter read on the bill. So we put the full meter read on. We separated out the fixed and variable charges to make it easier for the customers to figure out their bills. And we added the graph on there just to so you can I guess in the future you'll be able to see how you did in the last year and how it compares. So now I'm going to hand off to Bob Johnson, and he will talk about the usage of water.
Can we take it at the end?
Thank you, Ken.
I think we'll get to that. Just give us a few minutes, okay?
Okay, I'm here to talk about some of the possible leaks and causes of leaks in homes. The main big one is toilets. I understand it's hard to believe sometimes that certain amounts of water can run through a toilet, but because we get questions a lot, how can we use this much water and we don't hear it type of thing. How much water goes through a toilet leak? That one's a hard one to answer because it could be a flapper stuck in your toilet, stuck wide open. If the chain is too loose, that'll cause it. It can be tangled up. It could be something as simple as a flapper not coming down inside your tank, sealing properly. So it could be a slow leak, it could be a big leak. When water's going through underneath that flapper, that can be detected easily through either dumping couple of drops of food coloring in the water. You should be able to see that then run through into the bowl itself. Now, there's times where the water gets too high in the tank. It's going down over the overflow tube inside the tanks. That is not going into the bowl. That's going directly down in. So if that's happening, you can dump all the food coloring you want in there. That's not going to show up in your bowl. So the toilets are probably the biggest issue we have that causes high water bills. Another one is garden hoses. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't shut their hoses off in the wintertime. So they'll freeze up. You get a spring thaw or a few days or weeks of thawing. The hoses start leaking at the hose bib. So, but there again in the summer with watering, lots of times hoses are left on. Another thing is shower heads in your shower. The old style shower heads can use up to 8 gallons a minute. The older the shower head, the more water it's gonna use in your shower. Now, of course, the newer shower heads have every water saving device built into it as you can. They can be as little as 2 gallons a minute. So over the course of a month, little stuff like that adds up. Your dishwasher, You know, if it's an older dishwasher, they're going to use as much as 11 gallons a load. Yes. Compared to some of the newer ones that use a lot less. Same with washing machines. We all know those old washing machines use 35 to 40 gallons a load. These newer ones are in that 12 to 14 gallons. So all that makes a difference. And we also hear a lot, well, my friend down the road, the other side of town, whatever, they've got 3 kids and I use more water, my bill's higher. You've always, like Ken mentioned, always look at your usage. Don't look at your dollar amount. There can be rate increases. Everybody uses water differently. You know, you could be a family of 2, they're going to use water differently than somebody else with 2 in a household. There's a lot that plays into that. Your appliances, how you wash, how you bathe, everything plays into that. So there's lots of way things can add up over a month.
I'm going to jump in just real quick before you go off that slide, Bob, if you can go back one. The EPA has a website, and it's on here. It's under www.epa.gov, WaterSense/Fix-A-Leak Week. This clip is from that, and several of the other slides are. There's a lot of very good information on that website about ways to check for leaks, water conservation ideas, really ways to, as simple as changing out the aerator on your sink. It's under $5, but it can take your sink flow from what may be 3 to 5 gallons a minute and reduce that to 1.5 gallons, and you likely wouldn't even be able to notice the difference in your bathroom sink as far as functionality, but the volume of water you're using will go down substantially. That in turn, not only are you reducing your water usage, you're reducing the hot water you're putting through, so you're not having to heat and use as much hot water. So there can be a lot of compounding advantages of going into some of those water saving or the water sense features.
A lot of places we look up, they claim a average toilet leak can use about 200 gallons of water a day. Now, how big of a toilet leak that is they're going by, I don't know. I don't know if that's a flapper all the way open, set off to the side or what, but it's little things. We've seen where the ball inside some of these older toilets, they hang up on the side, so it's going to continue to run. It won't shut off. Wintertime, early winter into the spring, if any of you have got April air system on their furnaces, we see that uses water also. You've got to check those to make sure that there's very little water coming out of that overflow tube from that. Just checking the meter, we'll go to a house to check a high bill, and we look at it and that meter's not moving. The furnace kicks in and that meter starts spinning like mad. Just little stuff like that over the course of months adds up. But the big culprit, the big culprit are toilet leaks. Sometimes you hear them, sometimes you can't. There's a graph here. I think Emily put that in your packets, or it's available out there. Okay, it's really amazing what a tenth of an inch hole can do in a garden hose. You know, you're looking at over 3,000 gallons of water a day. So every little bit adds up. And like Ken said, the quarterly bill, it was harder to catch those. They wouldn't get caught until the billing comes out. So at least now with the monthly, they're being caught sooner. So I think that's about what I've got as far as leaks, something to look at in your homes. You can take a look at your meter before you go to bed at night, and take a look at it in the morning and take a reading on it. If it hasn't moved, that's one way to check it yourselves, as long as you don't use any water during the evening.
Make sure your water softener hasn't gone off for
That's
some
right.
of those other items that will use water too.
Yep, we've seen water softeners go bad where they cycle longer than they should also. It's hard sometimes to find a definite leak, because if it's not leaking when we come out to check things, we're not finding anything. That doesn't mean there isn't a leak though. Especially a toilet in a basement where it doesn't get used much, and then the kids use it, and then it runs for a few days or a week until somebody goes down there and hears it running, and sure enough, so they hit that handle, jiggle it, it stops running. All that type of stuff. So toilets are the big ones.
Russ?
That's all I have, so I'll turn it over to Russ.
Okay, my name is Russ Van Gompel. I'm the new finance director for the city of Oshkosh. And a couple of things that the city's looking at moving forward, and some of the steps that we're considering is the first step is actually looking at a enhancement called Census Analytics, and it's a software that'll give us more real-time updates on what's happening with your meters. That particular software package has not been purchased yet. We're in the process of getting some updated quotes. We're hoping to have that in place as well. And then I think there's been some discussion about some of the other communities have automatic notifications. We need to get the analytics software in place before we can open that up based on our current meter software. So we're also looking at that as a potential modification. Both of those acquisitions have to go to city council before that occurs. We're looking at potential funding for those, and I'm not real sure that we'll be able to get that done yet this year, but we're looking at trying to make those enhancements as well. And then one of the things we wanted to do is just do some more promotion about, looking at your leaks, looking at water usage, and there's actually a program out there that recognizes the importance of saving to the environment, water consumption, and fix the leaks in your system. And we look at publicizing that a little bit more in spring of next year. So that's a little bit from our perspective of what's happening on the billing system. Just so you understand, in our organizational structure, the utility billing side of things runs under my department. The distribution's under Public Works. And with that, I think we were going to open up some general questions before we get to specific questions. So if you have questions, we're free to try to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
Just ask that they go into the microphone.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Good point. So we can hand this off, and just so everybody can hear.
So this relates to the bill where it says the reading, and then it says usage in cubic feet. So if you divide the current reading by 100, you should come up with the cubic feet. But when I did that, you're either rounding up. I've never seen it rounded down, but I've seen it rounded up. So where it says 2 cubic feet, it was actually 1 point something. So do you round up? Oh, that's convenient. But
No, that's a very good question. And again, I'm understanding how our billing system works, but if it's 1.49, it gets rounded down to 1. If it's 1.51, it gets rounded up to 2. So that's a number of hundreds of cubic feet in your bill. But there is a rounding factor to that, yes.
And then a follow-up is you mentioned that if you notice a big spike, you would call. I have never had anybody call me.
Ne-
And I have been calling the city for a while. I came to Oshkosh from Chicago in '99, and one person living in this house, my bill is quintuple since then. And every time I call, I'm like, why is it so much higher? Oh, you've got a leak somewhere. Well, I shut off the water to everything, and I was still getting billed high, so I don't understand.
Okay, for those in the back that didn't hear the question was on usage and trying to get answers on what's happening with usage. We can look at any individual bill that you would like to ask questions about. The rounding's happening, but as far as notification on future consumption, that is a future add-on that we're not offering yet at this point in time, but we're exploring our options to do that. So, yeah.
I have a question about the notification system. Before you switched to this method and the current monthly billing, you did send out notifications letting people know that there was excess usage and to check. And I know that for a fact because I got one when I owned a rental property. Are you no longer able to do that with this type of system?
Very, very good question. On the past notification on a quarterly billing system, when we took the readings at the end of the quarter, when we observed that things were going on at the time they took the reading, we would send somebody out to take a look at your bill or consumption. Now, by the time we do that reading and get the bill out, that's relatively within a week or so of that happening, or maybe a couple of weeks. So that particular process is kind of matching up with the monthly usage. So to answer your question, no, we're not doing that right now, but we're getting the reads and the bills out closer to the read date. Ken, do you have any other comments on that?
No, that's exactly right. We used to, sometimes the reads would be back a couple months. So when we would get a read, it would be a month and a half before you're going to get your bill. So we would send a high consumption letter out to you saying, you better check to see there might be a leak at your house. Give us a call if you find out what's wrong. Now, it's actually within like days of the time we do the read until when the bill goes out. So we're not going to send out a high consumption, then the next day you're going to get your bill. So we've stopped sending that out because we're much more current with the bill period now, and you're getting notified right away. Now, like Russ had said, with this new software, there is going to be the capability of within a day or less to say, oh, they have a problem at their house. We're going to give them a call. We're going to come over to the house and take a look at it. Right now, we do not have the capabilities, but that's something that we really want because we don't want to see people with these large bills either. It makes a lot of problems for everyone, and we want to stop it as soon as possible. So when if we get this new software and we get one of these alarms that go off, Bob Johnson's going to send one of his servicemen out to check on the house and see if there's something wrong.
Hey, Ken, just to follow up on that real quickly, you know, once we get to the analytics and get to the customer portal or customer interlink, you'll actually be able to check your own meter by yourself, real time, 24/7, 30 days in a month. So if you sign up for it, you can get the notification as soon as your consumption spikes up. You can also have the ability to monitor your own consumption any day of the week.
And one of the, as we're researching that through some other utilities, there's some definite learning curve with that because just if people dial, each individual meter consumer can set their tolerances on their own meter as to when they're going to get that notification. One of the issues being that if people set it too tight, they're going to start getting all sorts of notifications just because they decided to do laundry on a particular day more than normal. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve to that, but that's how it works is that each individual customer can set what their usage parameters and their notification limits are going to be.
Other questions? Can I ask, somebody else has a question too, but okay.
I just had a follow-up on that. When do you anticipate this analytics software and advanced notifications going before the council?
Excellent question. We had a price to do that, and we are reaffirming that price. Probably within the next 60 days, we'll have it on City Council agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Just a suggestion from a business point of view, make sure that software actually has been proven to work in this environment. Okay. And I have a question. Okay. I want to cut to the quick here. I think a lot of people are here because they have literally hundreds to thousands of dollars in water bills all of a sudden. And my question is, do leaks suddenly fix themselves? And the reason I ask that is I've lived in my property for 12 years now. I've been in a situation where I have had leaks, like a toilet leak, fixed that situation, notified the city, got maybe a $20 credit on a large bill. But that doesn't explain why some people now have literally hundreds of dollars, me, in a bill that magically fixed itself. So how is that possible? And I noticed you followed up here on your introduction here that these meters, nothing's changed and they can't fail. And that is absolutely not true. They can fail.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't really hear that in the presentation. What I heard and what we tried to communicate to you is that our utility collection, the meter reading software did not change. So it's the same software.
Told by Ken over there that there's no possible way a meter reading can be off or could have failed. The meters cannot fail in their reading.
What we tell people is a meter cannot run fast. Okay, so if you have a bill of such an amount, that water went through the meter. Okay, now meters do fail, and that's why a lot of times when somebody has an issue and they can't really pinpoint it, we will have somebody come out and test the meter. So, but I mean, meters do fail, but we would never say they wouldn't fail, but we always say they do not run fast. So if you have a water bill of like a high water bill, it went through the meter. We don't know where it went, but it went through the meter.
Well, Ken, let me just add, leaks don't fix themselves. We all know that. Okay, now listen. Yeah, well, a leak in a pipe is the meters themselves.
Yeah, well,
No, it won't. Because I've had them out and they were never that amount. Not even close, not even 20% of that.
Each leak is individual, and we don't want to get into debating that. We want to move through and answer people's questions about what they have about the water usage in their individual and general questions before we break to individual bills.
Thank you. My question comes down to understanding water consumption and to equivalent, what does 45,000 cubic feet relate to?
do your math times 7.48 gallons. Yep.
That would be 33,000 gallons. I'm sorry, 33,000 gallons.
I'll have to ask my question later. I gotta compose one.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having this meeting. I'm a landlord, had a $1,200 water bill in a house last month. No washing machine, no outdoor spigots, no dishwasher. Apparently, the city noted it after 42 days and went in and fixed it. So, well, thank you. But never told me as a landowner and the person who the bill goes to. And so that left me with quite a surprise when I got the bill. And although staff has been very kind and very forthright, I can't get from them how you determine what is the credit on something like this or what to do. They fixed it, so they know it's fixed. It was supposedly a flapper in the toilet. I don't know because I wasn't there. I didn't see anything happen. But $1,200 for a single family when we've been paying less than about 160. No way of knowing it. And I have 8 rental properties in Oshkosh, so I'm a little concerned about the future of how to do this. And I would do whatever I can with the city council to express to them the interest in conserving your water rather than just billing us for the extra water, because I'm more interested. I figured I had emptied Lake Winnebago by the time I saw that bill. I mean, it was incredible. And I have no idea, and I will check with staff to see how that's coming along. I filled out the proper paperwork, but I'm kind of discouraged to hear it might be $20. I don't know what I'm going to how we could make this better. When asked what I could do, they were like, nothing. So I feel kind of my hands tied here, and I don't want to become the water police, but if I have to watch the meter once the software is available, I guess that's something I'll be doing every morning when I log in and try to figure this out. But I do work in communities that do have the announcement on every morning saying, you want to go check this property, you're seeing a spike there. And I got to tell you, it's for the $65,000 they paid for it, I'm grateful.
That's one example of how much water can run through a toilet. When it was fixed, when our serviceman went out there, found the problem, and after it was fixed, we fill out our service order. It comes back to Ken's staff. Now, being a rental, I don't know. I'm sure the landlord, not the landlord, the tenant was aware of it.
The tenant was aware of it.
No, well, they may have been, but I pay the water bill.
You want to take it? 'Cause that's-
Well,
I'm sorry to cut you off on this one. We kind of want to move through the generals and get to that. We'll certainly work with you individually on that one later, but we're going to be running short on time otherwise. So if it's okay to move that to an individual type situation, that would be great. I think we've gotten to the specifics out of it, unless there's some additional follow-up.
It's a minimal charge, but I'm just wondering if the impervious surfaces take into account a shared impervious surface on a duplex?
It would depend on where the property line is. Each individual lot was, when the utility was set up, the areas were measured via air photo as to what impervious area was on an individual lot. If the duplex is on a single lot, then the entire property would be billed for the area, and it's up to the landlord to determine, I believe, how that's split amongst the utility bills.
In the current place I'm talking about, there are two separate meters, but it is one building, one on top of another, and there is a stormwater runoff charge for both.
So the landlord apparently has requested that it be split between the two bills then.
No, because I'm the landlord.
At some point in time, that's how it was determined. If it's on both bills, then it's being split between the two as a 50-50. You can work with our utility. We can certainly put that on a single, work that to be on one of the bills versus the other if you would like.
Because it is the minimum charge on both. Nothing is split. It is a double charge.
Let's take a look at that one individually and make sure that it's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Ken, before we take another question from someone, can you just explain the ability to do a refund and that process that gets worked out when somebody has a large consumption and they try to apply for a refund?
okay, so for a refund, what we do, and this is per Public Service Commission rules, the way we do this is, do we have any, does this work? The amount above your average usage, we will charge you the lowest rate possible, which is $4.26, because there is a cost of treating the water, even though the water wasn't used the way you wanted it to be used. The water has to be treated. So there is a cost to that. So when we look at your bill, just say you had used 20 that month and your average is 5. We're going to take that 15 and we're going to charge you the lowest rate possible, which is the $4.26. So it's not a whole lot, okay? But that's per Public Service Commission rules. We have to charge you a cost of the water that was used. And I know a lot of people get a little upset about that it's not going to make them whole or anything, but we have no control over how much refund we give.
Okay, I thought I saw another hand up over here.
I have a question in regard to watering your yard. Can you get a separate meter so you don't have to pay the sewer charge on that? And if you can, what is the cost of getting a separate meter? Fortunately, this year we had a very, very wet summer, so we didn't have to do much watering. But if it's very dry, you know, do I have to pay sewage on what I water my yard?
Well, no, that is a possible, it's called the deduct meter. It's $1.66 a month, but you also have to buy the meter because it's not considered a water meter, it's considered a wastewater meter. So you must buy the meter. But that is.
You've got two options. That, like Ken mentioned, a deduct meter. The meter's $131. Transmitter is $132. And so you've got to purchase the meter and the transmitter so we can read it. Anything goes wrong with it, if the meter or something goes through it or something happens to it, a dog chews the wire up, we come out, we replace it, but we charge you for whatever needs to be replaced. There's a lawn service meter. That one the city does not charge for, but you get a monthly set charge for that meter, just like you would your residential meter. So there are two options: the deduct meter, and you only get charged for the water that goes through it, not a sewage charge. But you've got to buy it, and it belongs to you. It doesn't get tested. Either that, or you do the lawn service meter, and that one the city supplies. We wire it up, program it. We read it monthly. It gets tested every 10 years, and but you do have to pay that monthly fixed rate on it.
Is the monthly fixed rate the same as it is for a?
Ken, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yes. What would that be, Ken?
Well, it would be the
Minus the sewer, right?
the full charge. Yeah, it'd be 860 plus 338. It's 330. I'm sure. Yeah, per month.
Sure. Go ahead. Just a minute. I'll be right back to you.
My last question for the water department. Is it primarily the stance then that the water department is going to claim that leaky toilets is the primary cause of water consumption?
High water bills, leaks, toilet leaks are what we have found is the biggest culprit for high spikes, other than if somebody turns on your garden hose or something. But yes, toilet leaks are the main culprit.
So then on average, you would think 24 gallons a minute going through a toilet is typical.
Is difficult?
Typical.
Typical? Where's that chart? There again, it all depends on what kind of leak it is in the toilet. It's really hard to pinpoint without seeing it. You know, we've seen a lot of strange things over the years, so it's really hard to say.
Let me just have the opportunity if somebody else asks a question.
If you've got a specific question, again, we'll deal with the specifics of a specific question and details like that one-on-one.
I have a question related to the charge description. Like in my bill, it says water multifamily and then sewer multifamily. Is there a higher charge when it's described as multifamily? Okay. So the 14, the volume charge is the same whether it's described as multifamily or single family. Okay.
For the Public Service Commission, we must break out how the water is used. Okay, per Public Service Commission rules, we have to break it out by residential, commercial, industrial, multifamily, public, municipal. When we report it, we report water usage to the Public Service Commission. So that's why we put that on there. The rate is the exact same for every one of those classifications.
I'm asking if someone on the staff could ask a general question and have people raise their hand if, since the new billing that their water bill jumped like very high. So a dramatic change in their water bill once the new billing came out. If you could just ask for a show of hands if who's experienced that.
We can't look at the cost per se of your thing. We need to look at the usage. If the usage has gone up,
Everybody here's just used just a ton more of water
Since the billing. That doesn't seem right.
again, you have to remember that over when it was over a quarter previously, some of those spikes would be buffered a little bit because they'd be over a longer period of time. If for some reason you had a leaking toilet that ran for 3 weeks before you fixed it, and your old one spread over that quarter, it would be a bump in the bill, but it might not be as noticeable as it is when it's the 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks of your billing cycle. So some of that buffering happened over that time. The new billing cycle is simply reading the meters, the same equipment, it's reading them every monthly, and we're getting that notification out to you so that if you are having a higher usage, you're getting a much quicker notification than waiting for that 3-month cycle, depending on where it's at.
I've used more, I've never used the amount of water that I was charged for once the billing changed, the new billing came out. And I'm the only one there. Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people have experienced this. I know, yes, look at the water usage, but you saw how many people raised their hand as far as how much their bill has gone up since the new billing started.
Yeah, we need to look at usage, but if there is an increase, if there's an increase in usage, the water has gone through the meter and into the home somewhere and gone back into the sewer system, assuming it's not into out the hose bib. So with that being the case, the Public Service Commission dictates that we bill for that water. It's been the city's water utility has had to process that water, get it ready for use, and the city's sewer treatment system has had to clean that water before it can discharge it back into the lake.
There's a question right here.
So, Ken, I've had numerous email conversations with you. I'm Ann Risa. Looking at some of the graphs that you emailed me, let's just kind of talk about this. When you talk about leaks fixing themselves, if I look at this graph right here, this is bill 1. It's saying our bill was $153.82. The leak stops though in the middle of there. Then the leak comes back in June, and now my bill again is $150.50. Okay, so how does it stop? That's my question there, because that stops for X amount of days. Then we jump back into a big leak, and we received the $300 water bills. So then we go to July. I immediately called when we got the first water bill that was $304, which somebody came out. And then I had a plumber come out after that. I don't understand, though, how we can continuously just stop and start again.
No leak was found.
That little adjustment that they do in that overflow thing, and I get it. I had an email talk with Mark, too. I don't understand how 19,000 gallons of water can go through that overflow.
Is that even possible?
I mean, I know what you're saying it's possible, but living there never hearing anything just seems, and I get it. You have to go by their rates for a refund, but $304 and you get a credit of $17, that's pretty hard to take. And I don't think these people hate the city of Oshkosh. Nobody hates us. We appreciate everything you're doing for us, but it's just hard to comprehend this when we go to work every day. And does this happen to any city staff? I mean, have any of you had an increase in your water bill? You have come into work and said, help me?
I can speak that I did have an increase at one point in time when I had a leaking toilet after I went upstairs and realized when I went upstairs and could hear the toilet running and asked the kids, and like, oh yeah, it's been doing it for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Okay, great. Just quick math on over a month, if at a half gallon a minute, so picture milk jug, half full, that much water running through your toilet for a month is over 20,000 gallons of water. So it can add up very quickly at that slow rate.
Could you just hold it for your question, and then this gentleman has the mic, and then we'll get to you.
I understand the leak portion. What I find hard to understand is the fact that all of us are here and we've experienced large increases, and I can't believe that every one of us has a toilet leak, a hose that's been left on, or something like that. Our first bill that we got for the month was equal to our 3 months bill that we normally get. And our bills have not gone down considerably. We didn't bring anything along, but it just seems like I can't believe that everybody in the city now is having a leak all of a sudden since you changed your billing cycle.
And we'll certainly look individually with that and try to see what's going on with the usage at your meter and look at those charts.
Statistically speaking, likelihood and probability are very low, right? That also everybody's.
Well, my question is, how many accounts do we have in the city?
24,000.
24,000? Okay.
So, and if 10% of the homes have 90 gallons, is it, I don't remember if it's 90 gallons a day leak, that would be 24. That's probably the number of properties we have in here.
And the rest of them are working. That's why they're not here.
Fair enough, but I understand, but what? One at a time, please. Thank you.
I think that a lot of people have had the same concern with that spike, and then it drops, and it's a leak that fixed itself, which we all know is impossible. But I would like to kind of direct to the landlord back here who had $1,200 in 1 month. Is that even possible to go through, what did you say this was, a 3/4 inch pipe?
We'd have to run the math, but
I mean,
more than likely.
how much does $12,000 worth of water,
Well, I don't.
$1,200 worth of water and sewer look like? If I remember correctly on the news a few weeks ago, this gentleman back here was $800 in 1 month, and they compared that to 560 utility tanker trucks in 4 days.
I
in
believe
4 days.
that was the 500,000 number that was incorrectly reported. The actual number was 56,000 gallons. Again, that was the number off the graph that has to be converted based on the cubic feet. It was not gallons. It was interpreted incorrectly, unfortunately.
Nothing about the water thing. When I went there, the lady gave me the draft, the chart. We asked her, "Is this in gallons?" And she said, "Yes." When I talked to Ken, when I talked to Bob, they all talked to me in gallons. Nobody mentioned cubic feet. So what's the chart's telling me?
The chart that you showed was in cubic feet.
56,000 gallons of water is still a lot of water.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Where did it go? I didn't use it. Where did it go? You're sitting here telling me it doesn't matter where it went. I still got to pay for it because you're claiming it went through the meter. I didn't see no water. I don't have no leaks. Bob came walking through my house, and he went under my house. They checked that meter. There was no leaks. It was dry under there. And then I look at the paper that they give me, and they said that the meter was tested out at 100%. But then you turn around and jump the meter. Why? Why? That don't make sense either. The meter is good. Why did you jump it?
The meter, the meter did not get replaced. It was a brass meter, and being in the location that it was, Alex, we put a new meter in, so we didn't have. That's right. That was a brass meter. So instead of having to climb back under the house to reinstall it, we put a new meter in its place. It tested out at 92% at low flow. 100% at medium and 100% at high, which even the 92% is a passing test according to Public Service Commission. We did not reinstall it because of the age of the meter and having to climb back underneath your house. I've still got it in my office. That was a note for the Ken staff to know, to let them know that that one did not go back into the system.
Public Service Commission, along with the DNR and the EPA, have dictated that we cannot put the brass meters that contain lead within them back into any other location. The old brass meters, under the standard at the time, they are fully compliant with the time. They have a very, very small amount of lead in them, and I'm not sure exactly at what point in time, but relatively recently they've gone to the lead-free brass, and with the whole issue of lead in the water, we cannot put those meters back into service at a different location.
The thing is that all this water supposedly went through the meter. When you transmit through radio signals that go through the air, that go over to your system, is it a radio system?
It's a radio, isn't it?
Is it Bluetooth or what?
It is a radio system. We've got,
So you're talking about sound waves going through the air, radio signals through the air. Isn't that possibilities for interference? I mean, that's how hackers get Wi-Fi and everything through the air. You got weather conditions. There's so many ways that can interfere with that the buildings can interfere with the transmission of air. There's so many people here with too many problems to say that this is not happening.
your particular meter, we did check it. What it's reading on the dial is exactly what they are getting.
And then, Bob, you checked it on a Monday. That Wednesday, I get a call from Ken saying that I had a spike from 3 p.m. to 1 o'clock with the new meter. And it fixed itself again at 1 a.m. in the morning. Come on.
All right. The purpose of the meeting today was to answer your questions. I know, because all you're doing is making individual accusations. We're happy. Excuse me. We're here to answer your questions. We will continue to answer your questions individually if you'd like. We're not getting questions that talk about things in general terms. We're talking about specific terms, and I think we should try to focus on general questions if there are still some, and I see some hands. We'll get to those, and then we will also open it up for individual questions. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Could you just please explain for us in general terms how the meters are read?
We have meter reading software that we go out, and it's called Census, and we put in what meters we want to read for a time. Sometimes it's a district, sometimes it's the whole city, and we send this out, and it brings in all the reads from the city, and it downloads into our billing software. So
you're not reading every individual meter each month? I don't understand the process.
Well, they're all sending out signals all the time, okay? We just go out there and say, okay, we want to bring all the reads in today. So the software goes out there and pulls them all in, and we get reads for every account in the city or in that district, however we're going to bill.
So no one has to drive by the
Nope,
house?
not anymore.
It just comes right in the city hall?
Yep, we have a number of antennas in the city, and they all come in that way. Yeah.
This software has existed for over 10 years now. It's not something new. Our meter reading software, this is being used
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm Mark Roloff, city manager. I heard some of these things. Our meter reading software is state-of-the-art technology. It's used throughout the country. If that's why we really need to sit down and talk to you about individual usage, because if there's an individual problem, we want to know about it, we want to fix it. But if you're talking about there's a concern that our software somehow has suddenly changed because we changed another software that's unrelated to it, that's where we have some concerns. We're certainly willing to sit down. We have several people here, and it seems like we're getting into some of the individual discussions, and we're certainly willing to sit down. We have 2 stations set up. We can sit down and go through your individual bills. But the billing software is new, but our meter reading software is the same meter reading software we've been using, and it is done by radio read. That's state-of-the-art technology.
Is it possible that the software could have glitches in it?
There's always a possibility, but as Bob said, and he was interrupted, unfortunately, we checked the actual read with what the software was reading, and it was identical. So, there are a lot of folks who don't want to believe that they use 50,000 gallons of water, but the reality is if you do the math, it is quite possible. And can it start and stop? Yes, it starts and stops all the time. I've been a victim of excessive water usage. I think Steve used his own example. I can tell you other people, hose bibs run, they'll run a long time, and they'll run 8 gallons a minute. Do the math on 8 gallons a minute. You get to 50,000 gallons very, very quickly. Our goal is to get people to reduce that. And if this more frequent bill has brought that to light, well then maybe there's some good to come of this because we can find those things out. But meter reading hasn't been proven to have any problems with it. People's bills, there are people that are having individual issues with bills. Let's talk about those individual bills so we can help you with that.
Can I just follow up on that?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking for the mic.
Thank you. So this is kind of individual, but I've talked to other people who have the same thing going on. 3 of my last 4 bills have been exactly the same, right down to the penny. How is that possible?
You want to do that, Ken? Or?
Like we were talking before, we do round them up. We do round them up or down, and we see it quite often that people have the same bill every time because we are rounding up or down. More monthly now. Quarterly, we didn't have as many of those, but monthly, it seems like we're having a lot more people hitting the same number of. And like I said, it's a range that you're actually using, but when we round it, it goes to the same number. So it's not. If you look at the readings that's there and calculate it, you'll see that you're not using the same. You're using more or less. But when we round it to the 100 cubic feet, a lot of people's are the same.
Consistently round, and I've had the identical bill for the last 3 months. So, and even with my kids home, hopefully it's going to go down that they went back to school. But we all have those different usage personalities that we all use. So it's important to take a look at that. And this lady's been raising her hand very politely.
Thank you. So, this is almost sounding like a political debate where there's finger pointing. Well, you're saying, it's your usage, we're saying, but something is wrong. What I would really like to hear is that maybe we're both right. I would like to hear you say, we hear you. It sounds like there may be a common denominator problem, and we can look into it. For example, on what the gentleman was talking about, could it be that, the water's coming in through a source, it goes through the meter, then it goes back underground and it feeds the rest of the house? Could there be an infrastructure fracture on the pipe that goes underground, and this water is going through the meter, but dissipating, never getting used? So there could be another problem. So what I really would like to walk away from is, instead of just hearing, too bad, so sad, there's nothing wrong, is hearing you guys say, we'll look into that because there could be some freaky stuff going on where we are both correct. We're saying, wait a minute, all of a sudden I'm noticing things going up, and you're saying, but nothing has changed on our side. So let's at least agree that there is an issue, because there's a lot of people here complaining, so it's not just 1 or 2 people. And if you got to look at all our individual situation, it could get pretty lengthy. So I would like to walk away and encourage, we'll look into it, something could be freaky.
Well, let me just respond to that, please. I'm relatively new to the city of Oshkosh. And I've worked in many different communities, believe it or not. And we hear you. That's why we're meeting today. In all seriousness. There could be an issue, and we're willing to look at it. Is there ways we can improve our system? Absolutely. We're here to tell you that we're working on ways of improving that, whether it's by software or whether it's having our operational folks come out, pull the meter, test the meter, and help you look for leaks. We're here to work with you. And, you know, it would be really easy to dismiss everything and just say, it's not staff, it's not technology, it's not, you know, this or that, but it's maybe a combination of a lot of different things. And I am committed as the finance director to work with utility billing, to help answer your questions, to work with the city manager, and make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do to accurately reflect the water that's being consumed, because it is costly. It's costly for the city to provide the water to you. It's costly for you to use the water, and then it's costly for the city to treat the water before we put it back in the environment. This is not a simple solution. This is a complicated issue, and we're here to hear your concerns and to answer your questions collectively and individually as best we can. And you know what? You might not ever find out why you had usage going up or going down, or starts or stops. You know, the flapper mechanism in your toilet sometimes sits correctly, sometimes doesn't. I've had a toilet in my house that went over the discharge tube. You know, there's all kinds of multiple issues, and there's no one easy fix for anyone. So thank you so much. We do have we have two more questions. Let's get to them. But we wanted to have some time for individual questions as well.
While you're getting the mic back, I think the short answer to your question is, yes, there are possibilities, but once it goes through the meter, it's in your plumbing. So we need to, we can help you look at potential causes of it, but ultimately, once it gets past the meter, it's already in your plumbing. So we want to help you identify possible theories to bring somebody in. If it's something like a flapper, that can come and go. If it's something more, if something like you described going down in your foundation or something like that, hopefully you want to get that corrected as soon as possible. So anything we can do to help you identify. The EPA website, these guys are just giving you some screenshots, but there's the EPA website has multitude of different causes. Toilets are one. They talk about internal, external, different things that you can find. And we'll work with you to try to help you identify possible theories to it. But ultimately, once it gets past your meter, you have to figure out exactly what that cause may be. And we'll test your meter at any time. If you think we checked your meter, it was running correctly. Sorry, sir.
You talking to me?
Yeah, it was running correctly. So we're happy to sit down with you and go through it. But the meter was acting correctly, and that's what we want to make sure. If there's a problem with your meter, we want to fix it. No, right, and now that we're doing it every 30 days, we can do it more often. We can identify it quicker. Denying it is not going to solve the problem either, and I think that's to your point. We can't deny that the possibility exists. I have a saying, and we have to do this in public service. A broken clock's right twice a day. We have to listen to these concerns you have, because if we don't, we run the risk of missing something. So we're going to work with you to find those things. But if we can't find the answer and it lies within the meter of your house, past the meter, then you have to find it yourself. It is your own property. That's your responsibility. So everybody has to take their own responsibility. If there's something we're doing, if there's something wrong with the meter, that's on us. That's our problem. If it's not the meter and if it's something inside your plumbing, then you have to take responsibility. So with that, I think we're going to break up. Thank you for coming.
I have a question.
I'm sorry. We promised two in that gentleman. I know that. I'm sorry. No, that.
You said that it's costly to the city. Yes. This is the city.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
The ones that pay the taxes.
I agree.
And if you want us to believe you, and if you want our support, and if you want us to join in, then instead of dividing us, as that lady said, let's come up with a way to say there may be a problem, or maybe we can get to each individual who has actually come here. and said, and let's satisfy that person so he can satisfy those people in the neighborhood so that you can have our support. And I will say one thing to this group of people. 4 years ago, I got a 120-year-old house. 4 years ago, I decided, I'm gonna change the toilets. I'm tired of listening to them fill for like 5 minutes, and I got some modern toilets. My usage went down dramatically. Thank you.
That's
Because of
great.
that. But I just wanted to remind you that you're talking to the people that pay your salary.
I agree. I didn't mean to say anything to the contrary of that. I'm sorry if I did.
Who else?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay,
here's the
yeah,
question.
Good.
We've increased our rates, we all know that. We have the difference between what is billed for what. We know that at some point, we might be getting new software to do all these magic things. Here's my question. When I moved here from a place that had no furnace, we had no winter, I came here that first few months, and I got sticker shock over the heat. It's not that I didn't know it was gonna happen, but slamming me in the face was a different thing. One thing that I love about our utility company, the heat and electric, is we get the same bill if you want, every single month. And then every 6 months they say, hey, let's look at your usage. Your bill is going down. Oops, your bill has to go up. So every single month I know how to budget because for those 6 months, my bill is exactly the same. I have got new windows, I got new furnace, I got new this and that. My bill went from about $280 down to $163 a month because of the proactive things that we did. Question that we have with this new magic software that may come one of these days, is there a possibility, is it does the whoever governs whatever we do, are you able to do the same kind of thing with water so that you can look at the usage and people can pay the same thing every month, then renew it every 6 months or a year?
Yeah, thank you. We're committed to getting the software that will be able to track it more frequently. But like with the heating, little things that Steve mentioned, like aerators and things like that, we can certainly recommend those things.
That wasn't my question.
Well, you said about ways to reduce usage.
No, I.
We have, with the power and electricity, I
Okay.
have the same
If you know,
every 6 months.
you're talking about budget billing? Yeah,
Will we be able to do that now that you're, and obviously the graph is this much now, but say in 6 months when you can see a person's usage, are we able to do budget billing so we're not slammed every month
Yeah,
with something different? Understanding that at the end of that 6 months or whatever, 9 months, whatever the termination is, we might be told, hey, it's way higher than we thought it was, and here's the reason why. But it's nice having the same bill every month.
That is a very good point. I do not know of any other communities that I've worked in and worked with that have done that, but it is a good question that we will research the answer. As you heard in some of the conversations earlier today, there is a state agency called the Public Service Commission that regulates electric utilities and water utilities as well. I will personally check to see once if that's an option that we can offer. They actually approve the water rate because we have to apply for a water rate increase. Once that water rate increase is approved, we have to follow it. I'm not sure, as I'm standing here tonight, that I know the answer to your question.
I asked the question. So, and then the second follow-up is, how will we know that the question was asked and that it was answered, and how will you communicate it? Because I think a lot of people would benefit from budget billing. Because I saw a lot of hands going, oh, yeah.
we can certainly look into it, and if we're allowed to, we will. But we will through social. Through how would you like to know?
I don't know how you guys do business, obviously, because it's different for everybody.
Well, I mean, we use social media, we put on our bills and things like that, and we can use all those methods, and we're happy to do that. But I mean,
Because I think budget billing would help a lot of people. And then at the end of that period of time, just like it is with my heating and electricity, I find out, oh, your bill's going down, or oops, it's going up. But then we can plan. And if we're making, if we have a running toilet or we ever this or that, you're right, that is on us. But when it's spiking all over the place, it's really pretty darn difficult to plan on how to pay your bills.
we can look into it. Yeah, that gentleman did ask. And then I think we need to break into.
So my question is, historically, perhaps this is more for the people that have been here longer, but in the city of Oshkosh, historically, on a monthly basis, how many accounts would you say, I see there's the graphic up right now, about 10%, but within Oshkosh, how many accounts would you say have the excessive water usage a year, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
I mean, I've been here 6 years, and this has been going on the whole time I've been here, these large.
Could you estimate a number?
No, I did not. But we've had some, I mean, when you talk about some of these dollar amounts, I've seen them higher than that when we had quarterly and stuff. So some of these, you know.
Is this just a social media phenomenon where we're all able to come together and talk about it rather than?
I think so, yes. Because like I said, the 6 years I've been here, they've been water leaks the whole time I've been here. Some of my staff has been here 20 years, and they say the same thing. This has always been going on.
I can tell you, after working, and Russ has worked in multiple cities, this is a very common occurrence. The coincidental of our monthly billing, I think people are more aware of it because you notice those things a lot quicker now, and I think that's part of it. And that's a transition that I think we're willing to look at whatever potential things are out there because we get these all the time. We've gotten calls before we got to the monthly billing. And I've gotten them in every city that I've had a utility I've ever worked in. I've been doing this 37 years. For 37 years, I've had people call about it. But this is the first time I've seen it with a utility billing that it's gotten to this level. And that's why, you know, when Ann, and I want to thank Ann for suggesting the meeting, we're like, sure, we're happy to talk to folks about it. But we really do need to talk about your individual bills because unless we see something specific, we want to see. You might give us some common threads, but so far we haven't seen anything. You will help us see if there's anything. If there's anything that's that we need to take a look at on our side, then let's take a look at it. So if everybody could, we have two stations, one right up here and one right in the back. Dawn and Jennifer wave. We got Dawn and Jennifer, so if you want to race back, just get in line. We can certainly do that. And thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it.